Hi, it's Mary Beth, and we're going to do an art lesson using watercolor paints. So we need a couple of things. One is your watercolor kit that came home in your take-home bag, paper that was in your last bag that you received, and this is a little bit thicker than regular paper that we use for drawing. It is thicker so that it can absorb some of the water that we use, because watercolor paints use a lot of water. We have a container of water, clear water to rinse your brush between colors. And I actually have two of them, but you can just use one and go to your sink and dump it out and refill it if it gets murky and brown water. Okay, we're ready to start. I'm going to go ahead and tilt my screen down so you can see my work surface better. All right, I'm going to open up my watercolor paints and see how nicely they are set out in their containers. We can keep them this nice mostly by making sure that we rinse our brush out between paints. I'm going to bring my water closer over to my paints here and start with one sheet. And I'm just going to start painting. So I'm going to get my brush wet with my water, pick out a color I want to use. I'm going to start with red. And I'm actually going to get some water into my red color before I make any strokes. So when I start, and each time I'm going to get a little bit of water on my brush, put my brush into the paint, and then start painting with it. Can you guess what I'm starting to paint? If you guessed a rainbow, you're right. You do not have to paint a rainbow, but I'm just doing this as an example. So I'm ready to switch colors, so I'm going to make sure I do a real good job rinsing out my brush, and I can go to my next color, which is going to be orange. Get some water in my orange paint. It's okay that the water looks a little bit red at this point. It's still going to come out orange when you dip it into the orange. But it is important, and I can't say this enough, to rinse your brush out every time. If we don't rinse our brush out every time and we start to dip into other colors, all the colors are just going to start to sort of blend together and mostly be brown or black. Okay, I'm ready to switch colors again. I'm going to go to the next color in line, which happens to be the next color in the rainbow, which is yellow. So right there, I kind of got a little bit of orange into my yellow, which is okay. I really don't mind that that happened. If you really don't want your colors to mix, you can try to not touch the other color as you go by. But like I said, I don't really mind that that happened. I kind of like it, actually. I'm ready for my next color, which is green. You do not have to, if you do a rainbow, you don't have to do a traditional rainbow. You can use any colors you want. That's something I love about art, is that it's up to you as the artist what you create. There are some different things to know about using different types of materials like watercolors, but when you're choosing like other things like what color you want to use or what shapes you want to draw or color, that can be up to you. And that is a very exciting thing about art. I'm going to do one more color. Put some blue on there. You may notice that I am not pushing really hard on my brush. I'm not pushing it down and rubbing really hard. I'm really doing it really lightly on there. And that is something to know about watercolors. Do not need to push down hard on your brush. As a matter of fact, that can start to damage your brush so that it doesn't work as well. So you just want to lightly stroke it. Look at my water is getting kind of green and brown and gray, so I'm going to move that to the side. Pretend like I went and filled up a new cup of water. And I guess I'll go with one more color, which is this beautiful purple. The more water on your brush, when you dip it into your paint, the more watery your paint will be, and the lighter the color will be when you dry it. And this is a fun thing to experiment with watercolors. There's my rainbow. When you're finished, I should say, do a real good rinse. And then you can sort of just pat your brush onto your towel before you set it back in. I didn't do that before. And then I can place this on the side or somewhere for it to dry for a little while, because watercolors are pretty wet. And so it's going to take a little while for this to dry. So I want to put it in a good spot out of the way. I'm going to put mine over here for it to dry. A couple other things I'd like to show you. You do not have to make a specific picture of something with watercolors. Something really fun to do with watercolors is to just paint shapes and lines and see what happens. So I could draw or paint. Keep wanting to say draw, don't I? I could paint an orange stripe. Rinse my brush, get another color. How about a circle? See how lightly I'm using my brush? I haven't used brown yet, and brown is one of my favorite colors. I'm going to do a brown square. Kind of fill it in a little bit. Let's see. How about some black? I can do dots. Let's see, one more thing. Let's do some purple swirl, kind of curvy lines. So watercolor painting can just be painting shapes and things that you think look nice. See how wet that is? You can kind of see the water shining. I'm going to put that over to the side to dry. I want to show you something that I did before I started the video. I made a rainbow, and then I took a Sharpie and I outlined my rainbow. Because watercolors don't really have a really clear, definite outline, I used a marker to do that, which you can do after your painting dries. Sometimes we do that when we watercolor maps that we've traced in the classroom. One of the funnest things to do with watercolors is to experiment and to just paint and see what happens. I just will remind you to rinse your brush with water between each color change, and then your watercolors will stay really nice and beautiful for the next time that you want to use them. If you do get some of the water some of the color spilling over, you can always take your towel and just blot some of the water to get it up, and then the color will come back through. All right, I hope you have fun with watercolors, and hopefully we'll get to show each other some of our creations when you're done. Thank you for coming to my lesson. See you next time. Bye-bye.